just to go back a little bit to the beginning of what you said, that there are residues in the body. The body has, for years, been taken on the postures and the activities that seem to support the belief that a separate self lives inside it. So the body has assumed postures and gestures and activities that are consistent with the belief that I live inside it. So when it's discovered that I doesn't live inside the body, then the body still retains its old habits. The feeling of being I, the separate self in the body, is left as a kind of residue, like a scar in the body. And that doesn't vanish just because the separate self is seen to be non-existent. It heals gradually, slowly. It takes time. And these scars or residues or the echo of the separate self in the body, it's very subtle. The body is like a dense, intricate network of channels, and the feeling of separation is permeates all over it. So it takes time. It's like if you imagine a drawing on the sand. It's not the wave comes over it and then retracts again. It washes away some of the marks in the sand, but it doesn't wash away all of them. So it's like that when the body is the remnants of separation in the body are offered up to the presence of awareness. Awareness in this case is the water that washes over it. That these scars, these traces, these echoes are gradually eliminated from the system. But it's very subtle. It takes time. So then somebody comes along that, as you say, focuses in a different way, whatever it is. But so someone comes along, and there may be something about this person. You may have a particular relationship with them. They may remind you. You know, for instance, it might be a particular kind of man that somehow reminds you of your father. This is not personal. I have no idea of your relationship with your father, but actually, it's more based on my own experience. So I'll give you an example from my own experience. One of my teachers at school reminded me of my father when I was 12 or 13 years old. And for some reason, there was some physical semblance, but it was more to do with his authority and the fear I felt. I was never really afraid of my father, but he demanded a certain standard from me. So although it wasn't really fearful, I felt I had to. It made me a little nervous. And there was a time, and my father was always working very hard, so I didn't see him. So when I saw him, he would ask me questions, and I would think, "Oh my goodness, I've got to answer. I've got to." And I would stutter sometimes like that because I thought I'm going to get the answer wrong. And what I noticed several years later, when I met this man, he would ask me things, and I would do the same thing. I would respond in the same way. I hadn't stuttered for 5 years, but when he spoke to me, I started stuttering again. This deep residue in the body, and the stuttering is a physical trace of anxiety in the body, an expression of this fear in the body. It hadn't happened for years, but I was like this, and I thought, my God, this hasn't happened for years. So something about the presence of this particular person evoked this sense of separation in the body. That particular sense of separation, I hadn't felt it for years. So that can happen now. So someone comes into your orbit and they trigger this old memory. It evokes the old sense of separation that was lurking somewhere in the system, that particular button hadn't been pressed for a long time. And up it comes. And it's very good that it comes up, because it's allowed to be seen. But as you say, the sense of being a separate I has long since gone. So there's no sense of ownership. that this is my sense of separation that's come up, precisely because the my has gone. It's a neutral, and because it's neutral, there's no judgment of it. Above all, there's no reason to get rid of it. I mean, who would want to get rid of it? Awareness doesn't want to get rid of everything. It's perfectly happy with things as they are. So it's just allowed to come up. And actually, a lot of what we do here, for instance, when we're sitting in silence like we were earlier, this is a very gentle way, a very hands-off way of allowing these old residues to come up. For instance, I mentioned one of them, the subtle sense of boredom. They're allowed to come up, and because we no longer have any agenda with them, they're just allowed. No reason to get rid of it. The yoga that we do with Ellen, or the more explorative, when we're exploring in our meditations in a more active way, these are slightly more active ways of stirring up the old feelings of separation. It's like saying, come on, we're going to go and we're going to open this drawer and open that cupboard and invite them all to come up. But there's never with a sense of getting rid of them, never with a sense that they're wrong or bad. They're just old habits. We want them to be exposed. And whatever it is in the other that has apparently provoked, I mean, you can't tell the difference, because their feelings don't belong to a separate self, just as your own feelings don't belong. So there's no judgment of them, there's no judgment of you, there's no desire to change them, there's no desire to change yourself. And strangely, this openness, this lack of judgment, this total okayness is the true healing, both for ourselves, and it spills out onto the other. And when we come into the field of someone who doesn't have an agenda with us, someone who is not judging these residues, we feel it, and that is very healing. That's one of the ways the teaching works. It's the true healing